I recently received this blouse from my spouse, and this other blouse too. After gazing at their amazingness, being hypnotized by the collars, lace, and adorable button detail, I knew I didn't have anything in my wardrobe to truly do them justice. Using inspiration from Lolita detective fashion, Dolly Kay, and more traditional Victorian clothes, armed with fabric once again found at Goodwill, and a desire to be cheap, sustainable, and endlessly fabulous, I accepted my quest to design and sew my dream wardrobe in order to style these blouses to their fullest potential.
For the black blouse, I decided I wanted to do a matching vest and skirt combo out of this fabric I had been saving. I wanted to do some videos to talk about my latest Goodwill haul. I walked out of there with some amazing fabric. These two, I'm pretty sure, were tablecloths, and this one was a blanket. But this one, if I remember the yardage, I'm pretty sure this one was 5x5 or 4x4. Anyway, it was made here in North Carolina. India. Via North Carolina. But it is 100% cotton, which is super exciting that I found this much yardage of natural fiber fabric for $1.29. I thought the simple black and tan pattern and the stiffer fabric would lend itself well to something classic and structured. The skirt would be simple, just a few box pleats, but for the vest I wanted this neckline with this bottom and this back detail. I started out by modifying an existing vest pattern I found in my collection. However, this would be short-lived.
Right now we're working on the matching vest and skirt combo. I have this vest pattern that I found in just the pattern stash here at the house. It's not exactly the shape I'm going for, but it was a good starting point. So I have made some modifications to the pattern. I changed the front piece to have more of a pointed bottom and more of an open neckline. And then I also went through and made a mock-up. I wanted to add darts to the back instead of just this tie here, just to make it look a little more Victorian, because back then if you'd wear full skirts, your vest would have pleats in the back, so it would still sit nicely on your voluminous skirt or bum ruffle or whatever was going on. So I have this first mock-up here that I will say was moderately successful. The front shape is what I want. I didn't account for, when I cut it out again, I need to account for a seam allowance because I currently like where it's sitting here in the front. I do have a little bit of a fit issue. The sides are still a little bit baggy on me. The biggest problem is that I need the sides to come down further. And as you can see with the back pleats, is that they're about 3 or 4 inches too high. I need this to be more like here. So I need to lengthen the back and take in the sides a little bit, but I think we're getting somewhere. However, I am losing interest in working on this at the moment, so we're gonna move on and work on the skirt because nobody says I can't. And then once I'm excited about how cute the skirt looks, I'll be more excited about finishing this matching vest for it.
The skirt was just as easy breezy as I had hoped. I measured the length to fall mid-calf and cut out a giant rectangle the width of the fabric. The beauty of using a tablecloth and cutting it in this manner meant that my hem and seams were already professionally finished. To make the pleats, I started by lining up the center of the fabric and the waistband. I didn't do any exact measuring to know how to pleat it down to size. I just used the lines on the fabric itself as a guide to make sure everything was evenly spaced. I don't really know how to explain this process other than a gut feeling. I knew roughly about what size to make the pleats, purely from having done enough of them before that it was sort of intuitive. I know saying that isn't very helpful, except to point out that skill really is just about repetition. From there, it was just a matter of incremental adjustments until the fabric fit the length of the waistband with everything looking even. I then repeated that exact same spacing on the other side. The skirt was pretty much finished at this point. It was just a matter of ironing the pleats in place and sewing it to the waistband. Once it was all attached, I decided to finish the inside of the seam by hand. Using tiny felling stitches, I securely hid away all of the seam allowance for a nice clean look. With the skirt checked off the list, it was time to start rethinking the vest. I came to the realization that if the pattern I started with was neither the correct shape or size, was modifying it actually doing me any good? I decided to scrap my previous mock-up and draft a new pattern from scratch. Since I don't have a dress form my own size, I put on a white t-shirt. The knit fabric meant that I could stretch it to sit smoothly against my body, allowing me to draw out the shapes and seams I needed. Once I had the shape of the front and the side seams drawn out, I then pulled all the fabric to the front so the back would lay nice and flat, leaving enough loose fabric to pin the desired darts into place. Looking back on this footage, I must admit that it comes across completely unorthodox, and I am kind of amazed that I got anything useful out of this process. Also, I think you might need freakishly long, bendy arms to pull this off. Once it was drawn out, it was time to cut it out. Turning this draft into a pattern meant transferring these shapes onto paper so I could clean up the lines and curves and measure out the seam allowance. The next step was to trace the pattern onto some scrap fabric, which in this case was a pillowcase. It worked out perfectly since the fabric was already doubled over and I needed to cut out 2 of everything.
So I sewed everything together and have a mock-up. This is my third mock-up actually. I realized when I tried on the first one that my bust seam was too low. Instead of actually having a curved seam coming across my chest, it was more just like coming out of my armpit, which was making it fit weird. So I did modify the pattern. I moved the seam up on the side, which helped a lot with the fit, and I also just moved the neckline up a little bit so that once I allow for seam allowance, it sits where I want. But with these changes, I'm happy with how things are going, so I think we're on to cutting out the lining and the actual material, which is pretty nerve-wracking. But I sewed the seam inside out, but you can ignore that. Alright, let's go.
At this point, I pinned the front curved princess seams together, and at this point, I was just really sick of pinning these seams. Because this was my 4th time doing it, counting the 3 mock-ups, and I had to do one for each side plus the lining. And I was also to the point in the editing process when I was wondering if anyone would even still be watching this video. And if you're not, I don't blame you. But then I guess, how would you be watching this part of the video? I clipped the curves so the seams would sit nice and flat, and then I sewed the center back seam. I attached the shoulders together, but only of the outside fabric. The shoulder seams of the lining are left loose for a fun little surprise later. Then you pin the layers of your splayed out vest carcass into place, and sew along the front, neckline, and armholes. Remember that fun surprise? Now pull the entire vest through those tiny little shoulder openings. If this is a struggle, just imagine it's one of those videos of an octopus fitting through what seems to be an impossibly small hole. Now that your vest is right side out, flip it mostly inside out again. Sew along the side seams all the way down from the lining to the outside fabric. And I really don't know if I need to be this instructional, because if you don't care about sewing, then you don't need to know this. But if you do care about sewing, then you're gonna need more instruction than just this video probably. And if you want to know how I know how to do this, it's because I read it in the directions of that vest pattern I didn't end up using. Next, pin and sew along the entire bottom edge at 900% speed. That's right, because everyone wants to watch how to do something 9 times faster than is actually humanly possible. However, my voice isn't at increased speeds, I'm just talking obnoxiously fast to fit the ridiculous pace and erratic motion of this time-lapse footage. And would it even be a sewing video if I didn't unknowingly run out of bobbin thread halfway through a seam and have to change it? That's authenticity right there, folks. Make sure to leave a gap in the lining side seam to turn everything right side out. This will get hand stitched later. I used a straight pin to get my points nice and pointy, and that's pretty much your finished vest, or waistcoat as the British call it. Actually, I think they used to all be called waistcoats, and I don't actually know if there is a difference, or why one term started to be used over the other, although Google told me it's because the British like to be more formal.
So it still needs closures and a few other finishing details, but this is the most exciting. This is the most excited I've ever been about anything I've made. I'm so excited I can't even talk right. I can't believe I self-drafted something this tailored and structured, and it came out just like I imagined. I'm definitely going to do some top stitching and a few other finishing touches to really take it to that next level, but just the fact that it fits and the seams hit where I want it to and it has the shape I was going for, I'm just elated and I can't wait to see the whole outfit together. And I know it took me 2 weeks to make one vest, but it's really feeling worth it at this point.
Now, before I could call the vest finished, I wanted to add this fun back detail. I have no idea what this little strap is called or if it serves any functional purpose, but it's cute, right? And it did end up helping to incorporate the pleats into the overall back design. Once I made the strap, I sewed it to the back right at the top of the pleats. For the buttons, I cut a circle just large enough to cover a penny. I then sewed a gathering thread around the outside edge and cinched it up like the world's tiniest coin purse. It fits exactly 1 cent. I sewed on the covered buttons, being sure not to go all the way through the lining. And bam! Ambiguous, vaguely historical detail.
What's up? I have been wearing the same outfit for 3 days because I originally put it on thinking, oh, this will be nice and comfortable to sew and film in, and then just never filming or sewing, so I keep putting it back on. The original plan I had is not going to work out because I don't have enough of this fabric I wanted to use. And then the weather was just really nice for the first time in 3 months, and I obviously couldn't be bothered to do anything. And I spent a bunch of time cleaning and organizing, and I can't tell if that was a distraction or productive. Although I think perhaps the answer is that it was a productive distraction. It's always nice when I can procrastinate by doing the things I was procrastinating. Anyway.
So what I kind of failed to explain here is that I want to combine the ideas of a typical Lolita style suspender skirt with traditional Victorian riding skirts, which were actually pants made to aid in physical activity. I liked the idea of combining something really feminine with something more active and practical. I wanted to create something that felt both whimsical and rebellious.
I just gotta get started on something because it's been too many days in between completing the last outfit and starting this one. I think part of why I've been hesitant is because I just don't make shorts or pants a lot, but I'd also never drafted a vest before last week and that turned out fine, so I think I just have to get started.
Here I drew out the waistband pattern based on my measurements and where I wanted the seams to go to create the double-breasted look I was going for. Although, is it still called double-breasted if it's at your waist and not at your breasts?
Okay, I want to make sure that I cut this fabric, which by the way, even though it's this really nice wool, I did still find it at Goodwill. There was a whole collection of them. I don't know if somebody was emptying out their fabric stash or what. But I was really excited because I've seen wool for $30 a yard most times. It does actually have some stretch this direction and none this direction. There's not a ton, but there is a little bit. So I'd rather have the stretch, of course, stretching this way around my waist. I also want to use basically this whole width when I create the pant legs because I want a lot of fullness, and I think that's the only way I'm going to get the fullness I'm looking for, because I'm going to do a bunch of gathering around the waist. So rather than cutting a strip here for the waistband, I need to cut it from the top here. Alright, it's been super fun chatting, but I think I'm just gonna dive in, do this all in time-lapse mode, let the narrator explain what's happening, and if I come across any fun, interesting, difficult parts, I'll check back in with you folks. But for now, let's get to cutting and sewing and making.
Hey, narrator here. The first thing to do was to cut out the shapes of the waistband. Yep.
Remember when it was a trend to make videos where you were just art and cooking videos that was just people violently throwing things and making a mess? Maybe I should just make all my sewing videos look like that. I'm looking for like a pink lace. Nope, that's Christmas trees. Kinda don't want it this thick. What else do I got? What else do you got? Oh yeah! Oh, here we go. This is what I want. Ooh, 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 oh yeah.
I sandwiched the lace between the wool right where I planned to sew the seam so the stitches would just catch the edge of the lace. To me, personally, while I have so much appreciation and love for historical accuracy, the joys of designing in this modern age is combining all that history has to offer. Much like producers sample music, we can sample our favorite parts of the past and remix them into something new and unique. The advantages of the here and now is that I can pull on years and years of inspiration. I can take those Victorian details and aesthetics that I really love and combine them with my favorite 60s silhouettes and shapes. Each decade is like a different color on my palette, and it's up to me to choose how I paint the picture.
Just like here to chat real quick, because things keep going wrong with the filming of this.
Really? You don't say.
I missed recording a chunk of it because I ran out of space on the camera, and then just another time I totally forgot to press record. And this video probably won't turn out that informative as far as like you won't be able to watch this video and figure out how to make this weird pant-skirt thing. But maybe you can be encouraged to go see what weird combination of things you can make. So with all the gathers in, they do definitely look ridiculous and silly, but with the waistband on, I tried them on real quick, they actually looked like pretty cute and fun. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and attach the lace to the bottom of this, and then once the lace is attached to that, once again fit this onto the waistband, sew it down, hem the bottom, put a zipper in the back, and call it a day. I am really sad though because I wanted to make a matching beret for this, and I planned on like putting a cute little bow on it, and I have these pearls and I was going to stitch little pearls on the bow, and it was going to be so freaking cute. And then I just realized that I didn't leave myself any extra fabric to do that, and sad. Alright. Thank you for listening to me tell you that I just like don't know how to film. I'm gonna stop rambling and I'm gonna get back to this. And I really hate that you missed the whole part of me gathering the waist. But if you want to see how to do gathering threads, I go over that in the Yuletide costume video. So this is a great excuse and reason for me to plug myself. So go check out the Yuletide video. I do a gather exactly like this for the trim on the underdress. So you can go check that out.
I made sure to keep the gathers evenly spaced as I pinned the legs to the waistband. I started from the center seam and worked my way to the outside edges. And why is this shot so awkward? Like, what am I doing? Why am I reaching out like 10 feet to sew this on my sewing machine that's like all the way at the back of the desk? Like, what are you doing? Just pull the sewing machine forward and sew like normal. Like, why am I so stretched out? Why am I doing this? Oh my god. So ridiculous.
So this is what we got going on. Don't know if you can see this. They're definitely pretty crazy. Oh, hopefully my hairy leg isn't showing. I didn't even think about that. They don't look as short as I thought they would. I'm more okay with the length than I thought I was going to be. I was really worried they were going to be too short. I like how the waistband looks. I'm excited to put some buttons on here, make it look double-breasted. They're definitely crazy. Not a total failure. Maybe not my favorite thing, but I think I also just need to see it finished and with the top before I really decide how goofy I think this is.